My name is Mara Elise Klein. I'm 32 years old. I keep reminding myself of that number because it still stings how quickly a grown woman can be shoved back into childhood the moment she sits at her mother's dinner table. The smell of overcooked meatloaf, the too bright overhead light, the way everyone falls into their old seats like they're following stage directions from a bad family play. I should have known something was coming. Whenever my sister Jenna smirks more than she speaks, and my brother Alex eats like the room is empty, peace is never on the menu. The moment it happened, time didn't slow down. It sharpened. Caleb, my 10-year-old nephew, Jenna's son, leaned across the table toward me, eyes flat and fearless, the way only a child raised to believe he can't be wrong can be. I thought he was reaching for the salt. Instead, he hawked a thick wad of spit straight into my mashed potatoes, a sheer, glossy line of disgust right across my plate. Then he smiled and said, loud enough to echo, "Dad says you deserve it." Everyone laughed. Not uncomfortably, not nervously, comfortably, casually, like this was sitcom humor and I should be flattered to be included in the joke. For a second, I didn't feel like I was in my body anymore. Heat crawled up my neck, and my chair screeched against the floor as I stood up so fast Jenna finally looked up from her phone. Her eyes flicked over the table, then to my face, and she smirked. Not embarrassed, not shocked, just amused. Alex kept chewing, his jaw moving slow and steady like a cow in a field. "Classic Caleb," he muttered. My mom didn't even blink. She sliced her meatloaf with surgical precision, lips curling just slightly, as if she was proud of him. No one corrected him. No one stopped him. No one asked if I was okay. And that was when the real anger started. Not at Caleb. At them. The people who shaped him into a tiny reflection of their worst traits wrapped in a child's face. My palms trembled. I imagined telling them everything I'd swallowed for years. I imagined flipping the table, sweeping the plates off with one dramatic arm swing, watching the mashed potatoes splatter into the wall. But I didn't. Instead, I dropped back into my chair fully, hands shaking with fury I couldn't disguise. The silence around me felt hostile, thick, like they were all waiting to see if I'd cry or explode or apologize for reacting. Jenna laughed again, louder this time. Caleb mimicked her. Alex kept chewing. Mom smirked. The moment stretched long and cruel, and something in me broke cleanly. The second time I stood, it wasn't anger, it was clarity. I picked up my purse, led myself to the door, left my shoes behind because my feet felt too heavy to bend down for, and walked out of the house barefoot without a word. The cold porch steps stung. The driveway gravel bit into my soles. I didn't care. I climbed into my car and drove back to my apartment with my bare feet on the pedals, heart numb and roaring at the same time. When I got home, I didn't cry. Not a single tear. I boiled water for tea and stared at the kettle until the whistle sounded like it was coming from the bottom of a cave. Then I opened my laptop. My name was tied to Mom's mortgage. Had been for a year and a half. Every short month, every unexpected bill, every family emergency had been quietly deducted from my account. I'd been paying Jenna's dentist from 2 years ago. Still covering the Netflix account only Caleb used. Still funding Alex's temporary loan that had turned into a silent lifetime debt. Still paying the cable plan at Mom's house, the one she insisted she didn't know how to cancel. I'd been treated like a walking ATM with a side of emotional target practice. At 9:12 p.m., my phone buzzed. A message from Mom. No explanation, no apology, just, "Don't contact us again." The words slapped harder than the spit on my plate ever could. I stared at them for a full minute, then I typed, "Understood, mortgage auto pay ends tomorrow." I watched the group chat go dead. Quiet, still. It lasted 2 hours. At 11:42 p.m., it exploded. "Jenna, what the hell are you talking about?" Alex, "You're joking, right?" Mom, "Don't be petty, Mara." Mom again, "You're being dramatic." Jenna, "You're seriously going to screw over your own mother?" Then Caleb sent a laughing emoji, then a crying one, then a thumbs down. Alex topped it with a thumbs up. I didn't reply, not to any of them. I turned off my phone, placed it face down, and went to bed with the calm of someone who had finally stopped begging to be treated with basic decency. At 7:03 a.m., a knock rattled my door. It was Danielle, my cousin, holding coffee in one hand and a bag of everything bagels in the other. She walked in without asking, not rude, just certain, and dropped the bagels on my counter. She looked at me the way only someone who's been watching you drown for years can look. Then she smiled and said, "Took you long enough." I didn't speak. I just poured 2 mugs of coffee and sat across from her. She opened her laptop. Okay, she said, time to clean house. She meant it literally and financially. While I tossed out the junk my family left in my apartment, Jenna's jacket from 6 months ago, Caleb's broken Nintendo controller. I was apparently supposed to fix. Danielle pulled up my bank accounts and autopays. She paused when she saw the list. Mara, she said softly, you've been paying their bills like a full-time accountant. No wonder they treated me like staff. No wonder they thought humiliation was a family tradition. We cut ties one by one. Mom's cable plan, Jenna's dentist, Disney Plus and Netflix, the utilities Jenna had slipped into my name, the car loan I stupidly co-signed for 6 months 3 years ago. Danielle handled the logistics. I handled the emotional part, silently grieving what should have been normal family love. By afternoon, I felt a strange sensation spreading through my chest. Space. Room to breathe. Something like air after years of living underground. The group chat stayed dead. No one called. No passive-aggressive guilt texts. Just silence. Cold, unfamiliar silence. I liked it. I bought a new mattress, got my hair cut, signed up for a Thursday pottery class with Danielle. For the first time in years, I did things just because I wanted to. I thought maybe, just maybe, they were going to let this be the end. But that's the thing about people who feed on you. They always come back when they're hungry. The quiet lasted exactly 2.5 weeks. Long enough for me to taste peace. Short enough for it to feel stolen when my phone finally buzzed again. I was curled up on my new mattress, still smelling faintly of factory plastic, scrolling through pottery class ideas when Jenna's name flashed across my screen. No greeting, no context, just, you're a terrible human being. Caleb cried when he found out he couldn't go on his field trip. Hope that makes you feel good. I stared at the message, not angry, not hurt, just tired. Then came a 48-second voice memo. I pressed play. Jenna's voice was sharp, panicked, cracking in the middle, yelling something about loyalty, family, how I was ruining everything, how Caleb was just a kid. At one point she said something about, you always think you're the victim. Then her voice cut off mid-rant like she ran out of breath or out of someone to blame. I didn't replay it. I didn't answer. Danielle told me to block her. I didn't. Not yet. A part of me, maybe the part that still believed in closure, wanted to know how far they'd go now that the money was gone. Turns out, pretty damn far. 3 days later, Danielle sent me a screenshot with no caption. A GoFundMe. Title, Help Caleb Get Through a Tough Year. Goal, $5,000. Photo, Caleb smiling with a backpack, gap-toothed and innocent. Story, a vague paragraph about unpaid lunches, unexpected medical costs, and certain family members choosing to walk away in our darkest hour. One donation, $110 from our mom. I sat on my couch staring at the post. At first there was a flicker of guilt, then confusion, then something sharper, alertness. Medical costs, unpaid lunches. Why hadn't any of this been said to me before? If something was truly wrong with Caleb, they'd ask me for money directly. They always did, unless they knew I wouldn't believe them. Or worse, unless something was wrong, and pride had kept them silent. Danielle watched me reading the screenshot and said quietly, You don't owe them anything, Mara. I nodded, but I couldn't shake the feeling crawling around my ribs. A strange instinct. Something wasn't adding up. Medical bills had never been mentioned, and if Jenna was telling the truth, she'd never admit it. Not to me, not to anyone, until there was no choice left. I shoved the thought away and focused on the life I was rebuilding. Pottery class on Thursdays. A weekend book club at the downtown library. Movie nights with Danielle, usually ending with clay dust still on our clothes. Sleeping deeply for the first time in years. No more 2 a.m. panic about whether I'd miss an autopay. No more, can you watch Caleb at his appointment? No more, we're short this month, just this once. Silence became a friend I never knew I needed. And then, on a cold Thursday night after pottery class, my phone buzzed in my coat pocket. Unknown number, no voicemail. A minute later, a text arrived. From Jenna. I know you hate me. You have every right to. But Caleb's sick. It's serious. He needs surgery. We lost our insurance and can't cover it. Please, I'm not asking for myself. Don't tell Mom I told you. I'm just asking for help for him. I leaned against my car door, latte cooling in my hand, rereading the message until the words blurred. No apology, no acknowledgement, straight to the ask. My first instinct was to delete it. But then I thought of Caleb, 10 years old, troubled, spoiled, raised on entitlement, but still a child. And children only know the world they're given. That night, I showed the message to Danielle. She didn't flinch, just sighed, closed her laptop slowly, and said, "You're going to help, aren't you?" I didn't answer. I didn't need to. It wasn't about Jenna. It wasn't about my family. It was about the kid. A kid who had once spit in my food, but who didn't choose who raised him. I pulled up my bank accounts again. I'd saved a little since cutting them off. Not much, but enough. I ran the numbers, looked at my upcoming bills, took a deep breath. "I'll pay 40%, I typed back to Jenna. No more, no less. It goes directly to the hospital, not to you." Hours went by. Finally, at nearly midnight, "Are you serious? Thank you. I mean it. Thank you." The next morning, I called the clinic she mentioned. I didn't say who I was, just asked how to contribute toward a patient's surgery. They explained the process. Yes, Caleb was on the schedule. Yes, a partial payment was required soon. I paid exactly 40%, got the receipt, hung up. 3 hours later, my phone rang. "Mom." I didn't pick up. She left a voicemail. "I heard what you did for Caleb. I wanted to say thank you. I guess I was wrong about a few things." That was it. No apology, but close. Closer than anything I'd gotten in decades. I didn't call back. Not yet. I wasn't ready to step into that minefield. I thought the story would go quiet again. I was wrong. Because 3 days later, when I got home from work, a cardboard box waited on my doorstep with no return label. Just my name, written neatly in black marker. Inside were photo albums. Real old-school ones. Dusty edges, yellowing pages, plastic film sticking from age. I sat on the floor, legs crossed, flipping through childhood. Grade school pictures. Christmas mornings. My first bike. My 7th birthday party. Jenna in most photos. Smiling, hugging me, handing me presents. We looked happy. We looked like strangers. Between 2 albums was a folded piece of notebook paper. Handwritten, shaky, familiar. "You didn't deserve how we treated you. I was wrong. We were wrong. I'm sorry too." No name, but I recognized the handwriting immediately. Half mom, half Jenna. Like they wrote it together. I sat there for a long time, not sure what the feeling was. Not forgiveness, not relief, not peace. But something. A beginning, maybe. I closed the albums and slid the box into my hallway closet. I wasn't ready to reopen a past they'd pretended didn't exist. 2 weeks passed with nothing. And then, a text from Mom. "Dinner Sunday, just us, please come." Danielle's immediate response when I told her, "Is she cooking or ambushing?" I didn't know. But I went anyway. Not because I trusted her, but because I needed to see whether anything had actually changed. Sunday felt wrong the moment I woke up, as if the air itself was waiting for something. I didn't tell Danielle I'd decided to go until I was already parked outside my mother's house. If I told her sooner, she would have insisted on sitting across the street in her car like a stakeout. Honestly, part of me wanted her to. The porch light was on, even though the sun hadn't set. Through the window, I didn't hear a TV blaring or voices overlapping in that familiar chaotic way. Just silence. A strange, heavy kind of silence. The kind that felt like a test. I knocked. The door opened almost immediately. Mom stood there with her hair pinned back, apron on, eyes swollen like she'd been crying. A broken wine glass glittered in pieces by the sink behind her. She had a towel wrapped around her hand, blood blooming through the cotton. "Come in," she said softly, as if loudness might scare me away. Instinct took over. I moved past her, gently pulled the towel off her hand, and washed the cut with warm water. She sat quietly, letting me tend to her, the way a child lets someone else tie their shoes. No arguments, no deflections, not even the usual, "It's fine, I'm fine." It felt strange. When dinner was ready, she carried the plates to the table. Meatloaf, green beans, and mashed potatoes. Ironically, the same meal Caleb had spit on weeks earlier. I sat down slowly, prepared for anything. An ambush, tears, manipulation, a guilt speech rehearsed in the mirror. Instead, she asked, "Are you happy, Mara?" The question stunned me more than any accusation ever had. I stared at her for a moment, trying to read the trap, the angle, the twist. But there wasn't one. "Yes," I said finally, "I am." She nodded, eyes shiny, voice steady. "I wasn't fair to you. I saw you as someone who could take it, so I gave you everything to carry." Just that. No excuses, no threats, no emotional blackmail. Honesty, stripped down to the bone. When she asked if I wanted to see Caleb, I said no. For the first time, she didn't argue. When I left that night, there was no dramatic hug, no sudden reconciliation, just a quiet nod, like she finally understood that forgiveness wasn't a switch, it was a process. And the process wasn't finished yet. 3 days later, a small package showed up in my mailbox. Inside was a folded piece of construction paper with a drawing and marker, me and Caleb sitting on a park bench. My hair was lopsided, his head was too big, and the son in the corner had sunglasses for some reason. Beneath it, in shaky handwriting, "Sorry I was mean. Thank you for helping me not die. Love, Caleb." I laughed so suddenly I choked, then cried without meaning to. That night, I sent back a simple note. "Thanks for your drawing. I'm glad you're okay." I thought that was the end of it. It wasn't. 2 days later, there was a knock on my door. When I opened it, Jenna was standing there. No makeup, no jewelry, hair messy. She held her wedding ring in her palm like an offering. "I'm selling it," she said, "for Caleb, for everything." She swallowed, looked away, then said, "I'm sorry, Mara, for all of it. I didn't want to see how bad it got." She wasn't crying, but her voice kept breaking. The words came out jagged, unpolished, real. She handed me an envelope next. A check. 4 digits. "From both of us," she said. "Just something back. A start." Before I could reply, Caleb peeked from the car window and waved shyly. For the first time, I waved back without hesitation. That night, Danielle showed up with 2 bottles of wine and a look of pure suspicion. "You look like you just got proposed to by an ex," she said, dropping the bottles on my counter. I laughed. Actually laughed. We talked for hours about work, boundaries, and beginnings. She mentioned an opening at her firm, said I should apply. I said I'd think about it, and meant it. The next morning, I woke up to a text from Mom. A picture of a small house with chipped paint and a crooked swing set. "Thinking about buying this. 10 minutes from you. You don't have to help, but I'd like to cook for you once I'm settled." For the first time, her words didn't feel like a hook disguised as affection. They felt like possibility. A few days later, another envelope slid under my door. A card with cartoon bears on it. "Hi, Mara. I feel better now. Mom says I can visit if you want. I'm sorry for being mean. I hope you like your job and your new haircut. Love, Caleb." I froze at the line about my haircut. Only Jenna could have told him that. But this time, it didn't feel like intrusion. It felt like care. I emailed my application to Danielle's firm that same night, then wrote Caleb back. "Thanks for your card. I'm glad you're better. I'd like to write you sometimes. Is that okay?" His next drawing arrived a week later, me, Caleb, and Danielle making clay pots. Underneath it, one word, someday. Fall came fast after that. Caleb recovered. I started the new job. Life settled into a rhythm I didn't know I was capable of having. Then Mom texted, "Bought the house. Moving soon. You don't have to help, but I'd like to cook for you once I'm settled." I replied, "One dinner." A week later, a letter came from Jenna. No drama, no guilt, no self-defense. Just truth. She wrote about shame, about realizing she'd treated my generosity like a guarantee, about wanting to rebuild something honest. I didn't reply. Not yet. But I kept the letter, and for the first time in my life, that felt like enough.